Hey everybody, it is Tumblr user Whowasfone here, and I'm going to bring you some gameplay footage of the hardest game, Dark Souls. So I'm going to do a video playthrough of the first Dark Souls, kind of inspired by Julie, who's doing her playthrough of Undertale, which is pretty cool, and I recommend checking it out. So the reason I chose Dark Souls for my video playthrough thing is because it's one of my favorite games, probably behind Morrowind. It's probably one of the best examples of a gameplay-driven narrative in all of video games, really. And I think it's a super fun game to play, hopefully fun to watch, too. And there's a lot of things to comment about, because it's got a pretty deep backstory, and it really makes you think rather than giving it all to you via, like, codex entries and stuff like that. And also, it kind of fits the time of year. A lot of the environments in the first Dark Souls remind me a lot of autumn, and being October, it seemed like the perfect game to play. So let's get into it. We're going to start a new character on the PC version, and I think we're going to make a cleric, well, a faith build at least, because some of the areas in the game are pretty shit without a divine weapon, which is like the catacombs and stuff. And clerics can use divine weapons without taking a damage hit because they don't have the stats to use them right. A lot of starting classes. Most of them have the same amount of faith, between 8 and 11, except for the cleric, which has 14, and the deprived, which has 11 in every stat. So really, we could go either. It doesn't really matter. Deprived, they have better stat spread early on, but they also start at level 6. So that means that they start with higher level up values, which isn't necessarily a good thing. And because cleric is already pretty close to what we want to use anyway, we might as well go with it. As for the gift, we can take anything really. It doesn't matter what you take in the beginning. Most of them are consumable items or rings, except for the Master Key, which is an item that opens up several doors in the game world that otherwise you wouldn't be able to open up until later. So we're going to take that to speed up some areas. Physique average, face, I don't know, we'll go with Far East Traveler. Hair, we're going to rock the ponytail, and for the color, just going to keep it black. Alright, let's begin.
In the age of ancients, the world was unformed, shrouded by fog. A land of grey crags, arch trees, and everlasting dragons. But then there was fire, and with fire came disparity. Heat and cold, life and death, and of course, light and dark. Then from the dark they came and found the souls of lords within the flame. Nito, the first of the dead. The Witch of Izalith and her daughters of Chaos. Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight, and his faithful knights. And the furtive pygmy, so easily forgotten. With the strength of lords, they challenged the dragons. Gwyn's mighty bolts peeled apart their stone spears. The witches weaved great firestorms. Nito unleashed a age of fire. But soon the flames will fade, and only dark will remain. Even now, there are only embers, and man sees not light, but only endless nights. And amongst the living are seen carriers of the accursed dark side. Yes, indeed. The dark sign brands the undead. And in this land, the undead are corralled and led to the north. Where they are locked away to await the end of the world. This is your fate.
Alright, so here we are, the Northern Undead Asylum, the first area of the game. As you can see from the opening cinematic, being undead is, not desired for the most part. There's a certain stigma associated with being undead, and we don't know why that is yet. But we do know that the rest of the world is afraid of them, so they lock them up here, up north. Not a whole lot to note in this cell other than the body, which contains the key to the exit of the cell. Let's see, our starting equipment for the cleric class is the holy robe, the traveling gloves, and the holy trousers. And these are pretty shit. We're gonna get better armor pretty soon, hopefully. Let's see, what's the item description? Robe donned by men of the cloth. Though plain to the eye, its hardy fabric repels rain and keeps the body warm. Those dissatisfied with church teachings must test their faith by going on a spiritual journey. Such is the ritual self-purification of the Way of White. So of note, you'll see on the right-hand side of the menu our stats and our covenant, Way of White. So we are a part of the Way of White. So apparently we are some sort of cleric that has either gone on pilgrimage to Lordran through the Northern Undead Asylum, or we're a pilgrim that was, or a cleric that was part of the Way of White that turned undead and was sent here. It's really up to us to decide. So you'll see that our level is 2, and that means our overall soul level, so how many times we've leveled up. We have no souls right now, and then the rest of our stats are laid out there. Vitality is how much health we have. Attunement is how many slots we have to equip different magic. Endurance is how many stamina points we have, as well as how much our equipment load is. Strength is, one of the weapon equip values, as well as dexterity. Resistance is kind of a weird skill. It doesn't really do anything, but it raises character resistance to various elements, so it's generally not worth it to level out at all. Intelligence corresponds to sorceries, and faith corresponds to miracles. And that humanity value is how many pieces of humanity we have, and that lets us go back into human form, spend them to kindle bonfires, to increase healing items, etc., etc. As for everything else, we have right hand and left hand weapon slots. Currently we only have the straight sword hilt, which is very bad. It's just meant to be that kind of, you know, starter weapon. These are our usable items, which we have the black separation crystal and dark sign. So the dark sign warps us back to our last bonfire. The black separation crystal lets us eject phantoms that we've summoned, or send yourself home if you are a phantom. No arrows, no bolts, no rings. Okay, so without further ado, let's get out of here. We can't go into any of these other rooms. They don't give us the option to open the door. The messages on the ground, some of them are left by developers, and some of them are left by players. So the developer ones don't have any sort of like rating systems. You see that control scheme? But this, the rating system, is left by a player. So this just tells you basically the controls. You know, right button attack. You can lock on by pressing the right stick, which we'll do occasionally. Sometimes it's better to lock on, sometimes it's better to leave your camera free, but it really depends on the enemy and the location. So we don't actually need to kill any of these guys, we're just going to leave them alone. And as you can see, straight sword hilt really is as bad a weapon as you can get besides your bare fists. Alright, and we're here in the courtyard for the Undead Asylum. Right off the bat, we see a pair of doors. So obviously the game wants you to go there. There's a gate over here that we can't open from this side. And there's a bonfire. First bonfire of the game. So you can light, and then you can rest at them. And what resting at bonfires does is, one, it resets all of the enemies in the level. So it respawns. It lets you attune magic. You'll see we have one slot, and that one slot's currently taken up by heal, which we started with. Other bonfires, after we get out of the Undead Asylum for the first time, are going to let us level up with souls, as well as repair items if we have that option. Later on we can warp between them. A lot of fun stuff. But we can't do any of that right now. The only thing we can do is open up these big-ass doors. Alright, so we see another pair of doors at the end of the courtyard. But this is a pretty ominous looking place, and if you take a step back and look up, you can see the first boss of the game. The Asylum Demon is standing up there waiting for somebody to come through. We could beat him right now with just a straight sword hilt, but because we didn't take black fire bombs as our starting gift, it's going to be like stupid hard to do any damage to him. So rather than subject you guys to that, I'm just going to skip him for now. Which you can do. That door closes behind you, he can't get through. It leads you to another bonfire and the second half of the level. So, yeah, when you die, you're going to be respawned at the last bonfire you rested at. So, now that we've lit this one, and rested at this one, if we were to die further on in the level, we wouldn't respawn at the bonfire behind the Asylum Demon, we'd go to this one instead. Which is pretty useful. Get your shield. So this area in the game is where we start picking up the rest of our equipment. So this body over here to the left is always going to contain your like shield slot item for your class. And for clerics it's the East-West shield, which isn't that great. It has 88% damage reduction for physical. Pretty good lightning defense actually. But other than that, not that great. Very low stability, which means we're going to be draining a lot of stamina per attack. This guy will shoot arrows at you, which you can block. And then he'll run like a bitch. Here we find our starting weapon, which is the mace. Not actually a bad starting weapon. A lot of the club and hammer type weapons deal a lot of damage. The movesets tend to be slower than other weapons. But early on in the game, man, it's pretty good. Don't need to upgrade it. Scaling isn't a factor yet. And here's the first fog gate. And what these usually signify is that you've come up to another point in the level, another important part. So you go through here, and it disappears behind you, and then you can freely enter and exit whenever you want. So this brings us up to the second level of the Undead Asylum. So you see the bonfire down there, the gate, and that door we couldn't open earlier, which it looks like we're going to be able to open. Over here is a dead end, and then a broken stairwell. There's an item up there we can't get to yet. We can get there if we come back later. There's a window over here that lets us see Oscar, But right now there doesn't seem to be any way to get to him, because this is a wall, no doors. The only other thing here is a staircase leading up and a staircase leading down. So this one opens up the gate to the courtyard that we saw earlier, so now we can move freely between these areas, which doesn't really mean a whole lot for us right now. It looks like the only other way up is the stairs, and you can see that ball at the top, which is a trap. So you trigger the trap, get out of the way, it breaks the wall leading to Oscar.
Oh, you. You're no Hollow. Thank goodness. I'm done for, I'm afraid. I'll die soon, then lose myself. Ask something of you. You and I are both undead. Hear me out, will you? Regrettably, I have failed in my mission, but perhaps you can keep the torch lit. There is an old saying in my family: thou who art undead art chosen, and thine exodus from the undead asylum maketh pilgrimage to the land of ancient lords. When thou ringest the bell of awakening, the fate of the undead thou shalt know. Well, now you know, and I can die with hope in my heart. Oh, one more thing. Here, take this. An Estus flask, an undead favorite. Oh, and this. Now I must bid farewell. I would hate to harm you after death. So go now, and thank you.
Poor Oscar, man. So he gave us the Estus Flask, which is our healing item, and it has charges just like miracles and spells and stuff. Those recharge anytime you rest at a bonfire, and if you run out of charges, the only way you can get them back is by resting. So his dialogue brought up a couple interesting points. We're both undead, and he says that he would hate to harm us after death. And that seems kind of paradoxical, because how can you die after being dead already? And that's something that we'll see more of as we go on. But basically what he means is he's going to go hollow. So after an individual lose all of their humanity, they become kind of these mindless husks. And we see them walking around here. So this guy up here is a hollow. All the other guys we've killed so far have been hollows. And presumably Oscar is going to turn into hollow himself. So we'll see more of what it means to lose humanity and what it means to be hollow as the game goes on. We open that door with the key that Oscar gave us, and here are a couple more enemies. Here you can see like some of the scenery from the Undead Asylum. So we're outside. There seems to be really no way off this place, but that is where we're trying to get to, like outside of this complex. This body here has the canvas talisman, and it usually has like secondary weapons for classes, so it'll have the catalyst for sorcerers and stuff. So the canvas talisman is what lets us cast miracles. So by equipping it in the offhand or any weapon slot, you can use it to cast whatever miracle you have equipped. It cannot cast sorceries, cannot cast pyromancies, only miracles. Ow. Come back here, dude. Alright. So, 2 doors. This is another fog gate, and it looks like boss fog because it's bigger than normal fog gates, and it appears to lead back into this area. The courtyard we were in before. You can see the big gate over there, and beyond that would be the bonfire. This door leads to a passage that we can't actually go into yet. We don't have the key. I'll show you. Sorry, dude. You saw a backstab there, which does a lot of damage. Imminent ring. So it's locked. So we don't have the key for that. We'll get it after we leave. We can come back later. So the only other way to go is through here and fight the boss. So this time we have a real weapon, so this should be easy. And drops us off in a platform above him, which we can use to do a plunging attack. And plunging attacks, pretty hard to pull off, so they're really situational. But they let you do it like a ton of damage to some of the bosses where it's applicable. So you see me using iframes there to dodge. The Asylum Demon is not a, not a particularly difficult boss as I get fucking hit. Thought I'll block that. So, heal with Estus. Basically, the strategy for this boss is you just want to keep strafing around the right. That works for a lot of the bosses, especially the bigger ones. It seems kind of weird to want to get close to the big guys, but you kind of got it. Makes them harder to hit, and sometimes they'll use easily exploitable movesets. So, he drops the big Pilgrim Key and a Humanity for us. And he also opens those 2 gates back to the beginning of the level, and he gives us 2,000 souls. So that big Pilgrim's Key opens the gate leading to the outside. So that's nice. There's not really a whole lot to note in this outer area. It's kind of just a broken outcrop. But there are some things of interest, and one thing is an item here, Soul of a Lost Undead. So these items are souls in item form. So basically, you can use them as consumable items that'll grant you souls based on the name that they have. So the more impressive the name, the more souls you're going to get from it. So Soul of a Lost Undead, not that impressive. Probably going to give us like 400 souls or something. We'll see bigger soul vessels later on, so like Souls of Heroes and stuff. And that'll give us a lot more souls. The only other thing of note over here is this bird's nest, which has Snuggly the Crow, and he is a kind of weird merchant that instead of selling you things will trade you with different items that you can drop in his nest, and he'll exchange them for stuff. But right now, we can't do anything with that. We don't have any items to give, and he's not even here for the intro. So that means the only other way we can go is here.
Only in the ancient legends it is stated that one day an undead shall be chosen. To leave the undead asylum in pilgrimage to the land of the ancient lords. Lordran.
Alright, so that big crow drops us off here in Firelink Shrine. So in Lordran, level up and kindle at bonfires. So Firelink Shrine, it's the hub area for Dark Souls. A lot of the Souls games have their own hub areas, and it depends on which game as to which type of area they have as a hub. So because Dark Souls is a game with a large connected overworld, this is kind of like the central location. You can get to any other area in the game from Firelink, or by taking a path that can lead from Firelink. There's a lot to note in this little place. Here we see body containing humanity. So if we crush these little sprites, you'll see the number go up next to our health and stamina, and it'll also heal us full from however much damage we've taken. So that's pretty nice. A lot of people use them as healing items in PvP, or as phantoms when they're helping in co-op, because that's the only way you can heal as a phantom. Over there we see the bridge leading to one of the areas in the game that we'll go next. Firelink Shrine is also where NPCs gather, so we'll see the first NPC here.
Well, what do we have here? You must be a new arrival. Let me guess, fate of the undead, right? Well, you're not the first, but there's no salvation here. You'd have done better to rot in the undead asylum. But too late now. Well, since you're here, let me help you out. There are, actually, two bells of awakening. One's up above in the undead church. The other is far, far below, in the ruins at the base of Blight Town. Ring them both, and something happens. Brilliant, right? Not much to go on, but I have a feeling that won't stop you. So, off you go. It is why you came, isn't it? To this accursed land of the undead? Ah, your face. You're practically hollow. But who knows? Going hollow could solve quite a bit. What? Restoring your humanity? Well, there are a few ways to go about it. Collected bit by bit from corpses. Or you can butter up a cleric and get yourself summoned. And the quickest way, although I never do it, is to kill a healthy undead and pillage its humanity. Coveting thy neighbor is only human, after all. What are you looking at? Don't try anything clever. You might regret it. What? Oh, that's all we need. Another inquisitive soul. Well, listen carefully then. One of the bells is up above in the undead church, but the lift is broken. You'll have to climb the stairs up the ruins and access the undead burg through the waterway. The other bell is back down below the undead burg, within the plague-infested Blight Town. But I'd die again before I step foot in that cesspool. Bloody hell, what is it now? You ask too many questions.
Alright, so that is the Crestfallen Warrior. He's an NPC archetype that comes back in basically all the FromSoft games in the Soul series. He gave us some helpful advice and also some kind of ominous advice. So that up there is where he's talking about in the Undead Burg. These are the stairs, and that's the waterway. But we're not going to go there just yet. We're going to explore the rest of Firelink Shrine. Down these stairs is seemingly empty area. It has the Firekeeper over here. No response. She cannot speak. So she lets us upgrade our Estus flasks with Firekeeper souls, but she can't speak, so she can't talk. Down here, another set of stairs. And this leads us to a lift. That'll bring us to New Londo, which is an area meant for later in the game. You can access it whenever because the door's open, but we don't have the level or the items needed to succeed in that area, so we're not going to do it. Back up these stairs, we have an area where an NPC is going to pop up later. Stairway leading into what looks like the remains of some sort of chapel. We see our crow friend up there, who we can get to. Over here, we see a pretty big graveyard. And this graveyard is more or less the start of the catacombs. So these skeletons will animate once we come over here. And because we don't have a divine weapon, even if we kill them, they'll keep reappearing. We can kill the necromancers further on in the level to stop them, but we don't have the means to get through here yet with the weapons we have. So this is the second level of the chapel. We're pretty close to our crow, but we can't interact with them yet. There are, I believe, items up here. I think it's like a soul. Let me see. Yeah, Soul of a Lost Undead, another one. Not all that useful to us right now. The other stairways, we have this one up here that brings us to another NPC. This is Petrus of Thorland.
Hello there. I believe we are not acquainted. I am Petrus of Thoroland. Have you business with us? If not, I'd prefer to keep a distance, if possible. Hello there. I realize that I have requested that we retain our distance, but I also want you to know that it is not meant in ill will. Here, take this, as a token of peace. No, go ahead. It's for you.
A copper coin. Whoops. Copper coin of Old Man McLoif. Coin made of copper. Its face shows Old Man McLoif, god of medicine and drink. Even coins of great value in the world of men have little value in Lordran, where the accepted currency is souls. Those who dream of returning to the outside world are fond of carrying this around. Well, thanks for the useless item, my boy.
Oh my, you again. Oh, I know. How about this? I have to await my companions here anyway. So what if I were to teach you some miracles? Would that please you? Very well. Then first, a covenant with the gods. Now let me share my miracles. Only their ultimate effectiveness will be determined by your efforts and your faith.
So we see that Petrus of Thorland is a cleric in the Way of White, just like us. And it appears that he is waiting for companions, who we are not introduced to yet, but we'll see them later on as we kill bosses and come back to Firelink Shrine. So he lets you enter the Covenant with him, he teaches you the shrug gesture, you can talk to him, and you can also purchase various miracles. So he's going to be a pretty useful trainer for us early in the game. Homeward is always useful. Great Heal, it's okay. Force, also okay. And we already have a copy of Heal, we can buy another. Seek Guidance is pretty useless. He also sells a Talisman, which lets us cast miracles, and a Thorland Talisman, which is a different type of talisman for what we have, and it is pretty unique in that it doesn't affect, like, its strength of miracles are based on its own adjustment scale rather than our faith level. So even characters with low faith can use miracles at a high level by using this thing. Pretty useful, but we don't need it because we're going to be able to use them anyway.
My companions are Milady and her young knights. She is young, but burdened by an undead mission. We are her defenses, to keep her from harm. An undead mission? Regrettably, I cannot share that with you. But you are my pupil. Perhaps if you show your faith. Very well. I can surely tell you, of all people, undead clerics are given a mission to seek kindling. Kindling is the art of feeding bonfires with humanity. Through kindling, we shall one day be granted magnificent powers. Very well. Come again.
So, we see that his companions are apparently some sort of high-ranking woman in the Way of White, and her knight companions, of which he is one. Another Soul Lost and Dead up here. We'll see how his storyline plays out later in the game, as I said before. But he's kind of a dick, and we're definitely going to see how that pans out. Hopefully, we can complete his quest line in the right way, so we don't end up killing a bunch of people. Over here are firebombs. Pretty useful item early in the game to deal with certain enemies that we'll come across in the Undead Burg. And that stairway was right over here next to Petrus's. Oh yeah. Up here we see the lift that the Crestfallen Warrior was talking about, which is broken currently. We can fix it by going up to the Undead Parish and then activating it there, and that'll let us access a shortcut back here in the future. But that is a little bit outside the scope of this video for now, because we have fully explored, more or less, the Firelink Shrine. And in the interest of keeping this first video short and kind of, you know, not dragging things out with a whole nother area, I'm going to end it here. So if you have watched this far, thank you. I realize my commentary probably isn't the best, because that's the first time I've done it, and I don't really know what to talk about right now. But as the game goes on, hopefully the gameplay will carry us through. Hopefully the commentary will improve as well. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys later.